Hi, and thanks for logging on to the Daily DVAR Halacha. And here's a brand new halacha for you, and it is for Friday, the 19th day of May, the 23rd day of Iyar. Here we go. First of all, a reminder that on Shabbos, we're going to be laning a double parsha, Bahar and Bechukosai. Also, we'll be finishing the book of Vayikra, so we'll say Chazak, Chazak, Benis Chazek at the end of our Torah reading. And also, we'll be saying Birkas HaChodesh, especially for we'll be blessing the new month, which will be coming up in the following week. So on Shabbos, we're going to say Rosh Chodesh Sivan Yiyeh Bayom Hashishi Habalenu Val Kol Yisrael Letova. That's what we're going to say in our davening in Birkas HaChodesh. We're going to say that Rosh Chodesh Sivan, coming upon us on Friday of next week, should come upon us wonderfully, and then it will lead into Shavuos just a couple of days later. Okay, now I want to tell you another law about Shavuos night, and that is that some people say Tikkun Leil Shavuos on the night of Shavuos. Tikkun Leil Shavuos is a long, long thing, and it has in it sort of like little summaries of the beginnings of Parshas and the ends of Parshas, beginnings of Mishnahs and ends of Mishnahs. Some people read that, and some people do not, and they rather just learn Gemara, like their favorite Gemara, or they go to a shir or something like that. And I want to tell you an interesting story. This happened with the Vilna Gaon, the great Gra of Vilna, the great tzaddik and one of the greatest scholars of all time in our religion. The Vilna Gaon was up on Shavuos night, and he was saying Tikkun Leil Shavuos, this thing, which you can find in any good siddur or something to see what it is that you're supposed to do on Shavuos night. And near him was the Dubner Maggid, and the Dubner Maggid was not reciting Tikkun Leil Shavuos, he was learning regular stuff. And the Gra said to him, "Why is it that you're not saying Tikkun Leil Shavuos?" And you may know that the Dubner Maggid was very famous for saying mushals all the time, parables. So he said, "Well, let me answer you with a parable." And he told the Vilna Gaon this story. He said once it happened that there was a man who had a son-in-law, and his son-in-law was learning Torah, and the father-in-law supported the son-in-law by helping him, financially, because his son-in-law was learning Torah, and it was a beautiful thing. Well, time came that the son-in-law started to slacken off in his studies, and the father-in-law said, "Well, I'm not going to support you anymore because you're not learning much Torah. I'd like you to go out and get a job. It's time to get to work." And so he said, "Well, I don't even know how to go to work." And he said, "Well, look at what the other people do. They have a store, and they have signs in front of their stores, and it says what they're selling, and then they and then they sell their stuff." And so the son-in-law said, "Fine, I'll try." And he got himself a little area, and he put up a sign about something that he was selling, and he sat there and did nothing. And no one came into the store. There was actually nothing in the store, just a big sign in front of it. And the father-in-law found this son-in-law and said, "What are you doing? Well, you have a sign in front of your store and there's nothing in it." He said, "Well, that's what everybody else does." He said, "No, everybody else has a sign in front of their store that they're selling like fish, and then they go and get fish and they put it in their store to sell. You have nothing in your store. What are you doing like putting up signs for if you don't have anything inside?" The Dubner Maggid said, "Well, I'm kind of like that son-in-law." He says, "I'm not like you, the Vilna Gaon. I don't have so much learning inside of me. So, for me to put up the sign that this is the beginning of the parak and this is the end of the parak and not learn the stuff that's in between, well, that's appropriate for maybe you, the Vilna Gaon, because you know everything that's in between. So you can say the tikkun of Leil Shavuos, and it, reminds you of all the other Torah in between that you know. But to us regular people who don't know as much Torah as you, it's more appropriate that we just learn, because we have a lot of catching up to do, and we have a lot of learning to do." And so the Dubner Maggid said it would be most appropriate for someone like him, who was great in learning, to just learn regular Torah. That's why some people do have the custom, lots of people do, to just learn regular Torah on Shavuos night. Although some say it's a good idea to make it be Gemara, Torah Sheba'al Peh, the unwritten Torah, and that's what's most common for people to learn on the night of Shavuos. If you are going to say the Tikkun Leil Shavuos, some have a custom to say it with a minyan, and some have the custom to say it alone. Some say that this Tikkun Leil Shavuos, just like the Dubner Maggid held, they say that's only for people that don't know how to learn. But if you know how to learn, then certainly busy yourself with Gemara and do it that way. That is pretty much the custom. If you do want to say Tikkun Leil Shavuos, a good idea would be to say it first, get that kind of done, and then spend the rest of your night learning Gemaras or something, or some shiur that's about the oral Torah. Thanks for logging on. Have a great Shabbos and log on again after Shabbos for more. Bye bye.